Hey, we'll talk about the Lucy short. I'm actually going to cover Lucy yesterday and today. So this was really nice. We had a very nice painted backside of him yesterday, right? So this is actually a good example of how painted levels exist on a multi-day time frame. I was looking for 120. Pretty much in the pre-market, I was like, well, told the Discord if we could push to 120, that'd be ideal just because that's where all the painted backside levels are. Now the question is, how's it, is it going to push to 20? If it does, how does it push to 20? And what does the book look like? Um, I actually only short about half my shares. I was hoping to get another rotation like this off like the 1 minute 20 or something. Maybe get like a long trap, some weakness to short into, but it ended up just being super weak. Still going down. I think it's in like the low 80s now, but we'll look at the pain levels. I also traded this yesterday. I was pretty much break even on it because, let's see if I can find it. Is it this? Yeah. So I actually took a scalp long on it off of the down halt. And that's because the stock was on SSR yesterday. So there was an interesting little trick where, now if you've been, definitely if you're in my Discord, you know that a lot of times SSR stocks, we consider it bullish when there's a massive, rapid dump of the stock, where very few people could get into the play, right? The idea being people chase an SSR stock with a bad average, and it'll come and rotate it back up to kind of squeeze those shorts. I also say never short out of down halts, which is also a pretty good idea the vast majority of the time. But yeah, this was interesting. So SSR is interesting just because you get to see how people are chasing in real time on the level two, right? So we had, we it came out of the unhalt, it bounced right off the 1 minute 20, right? So I've been talking about waiting for the second test of if you're gonna be longing off the 1 minute 20 or 1 minute 50, it's a good idea to wait for the second test to see how it reacts, right? See what the bid structure is. This is more of a manipulated entry where on this dump candle right here, this red candle right here, they stacked on the level two about 200, 300,000 shares, and it was following the stock down. So you'll see this on like these high volume kind of manipulated plays. You'll see big on SSR. You'll see ass pushing the stock down to lower levels, and a lot of times it's people chasing. They get filled at the lower level, and it rotates back up, right? So there's this kind of nice confluence because I'm like, well, shorting out of down halts could be super trappy. Volume's insane. That was also the second test of the 1 minute 20, so it also fit the time frame. But I took the scalp, and the only reason I took the scalp, and I was just planning on waiting for this lower high to get filled and just sell for about 10%, was obviously because the stock is up. So first, up only liquidity squeeze of the 114 high day from multiple days ago. So that's inherently bearish, right? Just not a lot of support on this play. Insane volume. So that's potentially bullish. But the more extended something gets, especially if it's already squeezing major liquidity levels, if you're going to be longing manipulation at the top, a lot of stuff like this happens. Either it just gets to the first liquidity level and pulls, or it gets to a higher level but will shake you out on pullbacks. It's really tricky. So you do have to be hyper aggressive with your selling if you're longing at the top. And this thing was up like, I don't know, like what is it up? Like 400, 500%? Like some insane number, right? So I tried to long trap short off of here. And this is a high day clear out that I've been studying more. We saw this on AWIN. So go to AWIN on day one from a couple weeks ago, where essentially we have a super hyper aggressive parabolic. The higher the better in this case. You get a deep pullback, and a lot of times these pullbacks are like 25 to 35%. They're pretty deep. And then you get an aggressive move back to higher day and a rejection, right? And it's happened at AWN, it's happened on here. I'm usually pretty bad at predicting. I was actually shorting. I was hoping this would just be some hyper aggressive long trap push past this level, right? And that it would pull and fade. Annoyingly, it caught the 1 minute 20 and rotated back up. I got out, and I didn't re-hit it. So I'm debating how to trade that in the future. It's like, do you go for the long trap trade, stop yourself out, but if it immediately rejects, just go back in if it fits this criteria, right? Again, that criteria doesn't happen that often, right? Like this type of like high clear out short that produced a fade like this only happened twice this month, so it's not a super ultra common pattern. So it's harder to have faith in it, but I think the extension is a major part. Again, we always have to analyze how a stock gets to the way where it is, and then try to track the patterns that lead to big fades. I thought long trap, that didn't work, but to hide it to aggressive, like look how aggressive that is. The more aggressive this move is, the higher this move is, and the more aggressive this move is off of the deep support levels, right? Which from a liquidity perspective does make sense to me, right? You have to buy a lot of shares. There's a lack of support on this because there's just nothing but higher lows. And then super aggressive. And the amount of shares an MM would have to buy to push it to this level on a stock that's this extended, right? But anyway, here's a short, by the way. So walk down all day. It's always so interesting how these lower highs come into play on these multi-day runner stocks with big volume, right? Because I'm like, man, are they planning this for the next day? It's like, hey, we're gonna lower high it all afternoon, rig it in the pre-market the next day, and push it in market open. We're gonna swap. It's like, is that all planned out while the moves over here? You know what I mean? Like it's so interesting how the liquidity patterns play out over longer time frames, right? But yeah, I mean, clear lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So that's why pre-market today, I'm like, I'll definitely be looking. If it pushes to 120, I'll look for the short, just because of how painted the lower high levels were. So, and then if we zoom out on here, you can really see it, right? Here's like the 3-minute chart. So here are those lower highs. Here, 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 here. Big up only squeeze. Clears every single level, every single lower high, immediately rejects, and now we're in a big fade. I guess from a bigger multi-day time, because this thing is trading so much volume, you can't really discount it no matter what. But there is another lower high below high day here that they could come back up to. But a little bit extended, a little bit extended on the daily. So, this could also be a potential swing short opportunity back down to even the sub 70 cents and even more. So fading pretty hard right now, which is good to see. But yeah, we'll go over the book really fast today. Here's the book on Lucy. Honestly, I didn't even see this until it was over here. Like it was about 115. I'm like, oh, Lucy's running. And again, penny books are a little different, but a big thing we always learn about clearing out painted backside levels is filling large asks that get put in place. So I saw the ask at 120, 118. I think at the time it was looks to be about a 250,000 shares, and that's just on DX feed on Bookmap. But saw this get filled. Didn't see a whole lot of bids following this up. It was hyper aggressive. A good short sell in my room. Mike Pigeon, shout out to Mike Pigeon, talks about the aggressiveness too, of like the micro aggressiveness of these initiations to the key level, right? A lot of times, you'll see when a level's getting targeted, when you get these hyper aggressive initiations off pullbacks, they can be nice shorts, right? A lot of times, if they start stalling after cracking a key level, a key painted level on the backside, they could be nice shorts. They could be really nice shorts. You see it on backside a lot. So yeah, super nice. Yeah, it didn't really. I mean, I always support down only, but I was waiting for some type of rotation. But yeah, really nice. So I guess we could look at the book yesterday. This thing was insane. And this thing like goes over like going over yesterday's trade. Like, um, first of all, look at the volume, dude. Look at the consistent volume. I didn't know what to think about this because I was like, oh, it's a post-offering squeeze, right? Um, we've seen post-offering squeezes on penny runners. I think Pixie did it late last year, right? Pixie went on it was a penny post-offering penny squeeze from you always got to remember these plays when they happen. I think this reverse split, right? But yeah, it was one of these run-ups. Might have been this run-up. Um, it's hard to tell because they reverse split it, but here I go. It's like I think they run it, they did an offering, then they did a post-offering squeeze. So post-offering squeeze is never off the table, especially when a stock is trading a bajillion volume, right? So a lot of shorts probably getting caught early on the post-offering bounce, which is probably what led to this, right? Even I thought this might long trap. I thought this might stall here or here. I don't short penny runners, but I'm glad it went straight up because it definitely gave us a better play. Yeah, massive extension. You know, here's that 1 minute 20 soak. Here's the rotation. And then you get the 1 minute 50. So when the 1 minute 20 gets broken on these high volume plays, just look at the next level. And then swiping $1, right? Potentially bullish. Swipe out the longs, risking that level. 1 minute 50 catching up. Nice, very tight soaking going on. A lot, you could look at the aggressive selling right here. A lot of space to rotate back into. And I'm looking at these lower highs, and I saw the aggressiveness of this push, and I thought, like, oh, like this thing's up so much. I gotta take this. Is such a tight risk play for such a potential, big fade. That decided to play it, but you get a lot of these mini microstructures sometimes. Like here's a mini walk down to the 1 minute 20, right? I was like, oh man, they're doing like a mini walk down. Said this in the Discord. I'm like, hopefully it just cracks 1 minute 20, goes straight down. Swipe me, gave the real short, and then really they just started lower highing it, lower. Next day squeeze. So, I mean, that's the play. I don't know if there's anything really on the book. Again, penny books are usually pretty different. I do like here that huge ass for getting filled, but, they tend to be less clean than the low floats that are not less clean, but just different than the low floats that are above $2. Those tend to have easier to read books for me. Maybe just because I'm used to doing it. And also that's what I trade the most. So to me, it's very intuitive. So. But yeah, nothing super obvious besides them stacking some bids down here on the 1 minute before the rotation. Classic. A lot of initiations come from like testing an MA. Usually I like to see 2 times. Sometimes it even happens. And it also depends how you count this. Like, is this a second test? Is this a second test? It's not always obvious. It's usually obvious when there's like an initial bounce with no bids, comes back, like sharp pullback, and then there's a second test. That's usually a little, which I guess you could, but very common to stack bids and restack bids before initiations. So I did see that. But yeah, I mean, I shorted into this push. I thought these asks were going to push it down, and then they did. Look how many asks they filled on this high to clear out. Kind of insane. kind of insane the type of moves this thing was making. This was just like many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of shares getting pushed up. Straight up. Nothing but buying, pretty much. But yeah. Especially on this pullback, did have a chance to get in. But I just didn't have that read. But I do remember it. So that's how you develop patterns. Best way to develop patterns is to look at the types of liquidity moves you miss out on the most. That's how my market open longs. Oh, speaking of market open longs, I took a small loss today on what was that penny runner? MNTS? Oh my god, no way, dude. MNTS is doing this. Whatever. Okay. Quick pre-market pop and drop. Painted VWAP resistance. Painted VWAP resistance. A lot of times MMs will fake VWAP resistance and then rotate above it later. Um, this was only up like 25% at the open. This was trading over 1 million shares of volume per minute pretty consistently, like 500,000 to 1 million per minute early on. So somebody was accumulating a lot of shares. Thought the chart paint was nice. I thought the market open volume was nice. I actually longed after this knife. Uh, I actually had to chase it above 70, but I like the volume and I like the structure. I like the reclaim. Sold a little bit into the 80s because that's the obvious like backside liquidity level, and then I was risking. I was trying to give myself space below the 1 minute 50, so I put my risk down at like sub 68, and I ended up getting swiped out of it. So it doesn't matter. I thought the idea was solid because my idea is somebody asked me, it's like, why aren't you worried about the dilution? There's a lot of dilution in this stock, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, a lot of times, obviously, like super recent massive dilution is bearish, and you could just hold a permanent bearish bias on the stock. There's nothing wrong with that. I just thought, given the pre-market volume, nice value, given the pre-market structure, the quick pullback, the pre-market paint, the market open volume. You can still have a thesis of like, well, yeah, maybe they tap into the dilution, but maybe they rig it first. Maybe they rig it, squeeze high a day, and then dilute, right? Pump the stock first to generate the volume in a range that you can dilute as most as possible. That's why, a lot of people overvalue dilution. It's like, a lot of the best dilution trades actually happen on lower volume stocks, right? When a stock starts trading really, really high volume, they can still dilute, and you see it all the time. But there's more potential that they're rigging the stock to get a little more range on it before they pull it. So the higher the volume, the more likely that is to be true. A lot of the best pre-market fades and pre-market dilution fades and stuff like that, are usually plays that are trading only. Might trade 100, 200K shares in the pre-market, maybe make a new, swipe high day one time or something and dump. And like, those are usually the best fades, dilution fades, low volume pre-market plays. But yeah, I liked a lot about this. I have no idea what's going to happen over here. It's a hyper aggressive move, straight up the 1 minute 9. Usually means even if they're going to go for this level, because you can see the lower high paint. A lot of times these aggressive initiations will pull back to shake out longs chasing this, right? So, it would be pretty common for them to bring it below the 1 minute 20, bring it below VWAP, maybe get it back down here. Usually shaking out the long chasers before the real squeeze is more common in this situation, but you never know. I wouldn't be chasing long up here. That's my opinion. So wonder what does the book look like? Yeah, look at the book. See, a book tells you some interesting things. Somebody's throwing up a 65,000 share bid right here at a 0.705. Has 65,000 shares. Just holding. Is that bid going to hold? My opinion, it makes more sense to swipe this and push it, but maybe it just pushes. But again, like even with that bid and with the 1 minute 20 support, see the 1 minute 20 support right here. I still want it long this. It's a big chase, in my opinion. If you're gonna be longing off the 1 minute 20, this is the 1 minute 20 you want to be longing off of. But see, that reads a lot harder to make, right? The earlier 1 minute 20 is almost always better than the later 1 minute 20, especially given how aggressive this move is. A lot more common for this to pull back. That bit is interesting, though. So I was going to keep an eye on this. Longing, also, guys, longing these midday moves are insane. They're insanely tricky because there's a lot of tricks on the book like this, right? They hold this. Maybe this consolidates a little more. Maybe they pull the bid and knife it and then rotate it back up. Like It's so hard to read. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. Hope that video was interesting. Lucy, nice MDR backside, lower high, swipe, short. Pretty nice. I really wasn't, going into pre-market, I was really hoping that I would push to 1.2, and it did. I just didn't get a second rotation of size up, but that's okay. Anyways, that's it for today. I lost yesterday on some random ticker. I did a very weird market open long that didn't work. BNAI. Man, this chart was crazy. I thought they were showing fake resistance at VWAP $2 here, and they were soaking off a 180 bidder down here. Problem is, this is so weird because it was below the 20 and below the 50, and it was kind of in no man's land. Probably the 1 minute 100s right here, or the 5 minute 20s right here. But usually I like the 1 minute. I like one of my MAs to line up, and in this case, none of my MAs were lining up. I was like, it looks like they're, it's trading 2 million shares per minute, lower high paint, which ended up being true, but they swiped me out first and then did the manipulated rotation. Shout out to my people in the room who recognize this W pattern. We've been talking a lot about this pattern. So, anyways, that's it for today. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow.